Hey, I'm Geeky Pastimes, and in today's video we're going to look at something a little bit different. We're going to look at sort of moral decisions and ethical dilemmas to do with content creation and streaming. So if you like the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. So, I'm going to try and keep this fairly concise, but if you do have more questions about this, or you've got your own thoughts, or you think I've got something wrong, or I've misunderstood something, please do leave a comment below, or let me know on Twitter or something like that. I'd be really interested to kind of hear other people's thoughts on this. So, the way I see it, there's kind of three reasons people create content or stream, and these aren't three separate reasons. I think for most people, it's probably a mixture of the three, but these three reasons would be, first of all, to help people. Second of all, to get kind of influence or fame, or, to become more well-known in a community, or maybe just in general. And then thirdly, money. So the first motivation we're going to talk about is helping people. So like I said, this is probably the best reason to make content. It's probably the sort of thing that most people would think of as a sort of noble reason to make content, is if you have a particular skill or ability or just time, you can do things that help other people. And that could be something, in real life, like loads of people make guides on how to, repair parts of your car, or how to do bits of DIY, or how to cook, or even just, how to like clean things, or how to grow plants, or something like that. And in video games, it could be something, how to get better at a video game, how to complete a certain level, how to complete a certain Easter egg, some of the stuff that I do. So those sorts of types of content are really about someone who knows how to do something, trying to share that with other people. And you can often spot the people who just want to help other people, and they are out there on YouTube. In Call of Duty, which is, a lot of the content that I make, there's loads of different people who seem to build their channels up around trying to help people. E. coli Espresso is a good one, or Who's Immortal, who make, when they make these big guides, Exclusive Ace, making like weapon guides and things like that. Giving information out as much as possible. That seems to be kind of their drive. Is it's not necessarily just entertaining people, it's about trying to give people information and trying to produce it or present it in a really creative way. And that's almost like kind of a service type thing. And they can still make money from doing it. So, if they have something that's a niche, if they do something that other people aren't doing, or they're the best at it, then they can get lots of views, and then they can get lots of money from that. There's two big dilemmas for when people are trying to help people. The first one is, do you want to use other people's content? So when I've been making guides, I don't actually make that many guides on the channel. I do them for the intel, I do them for the big Easter eggs. Beyond that, I don't really do many guides. And part of the reason is they are probably the most difficult type of content to make. So if you're making a guide, say, for something that I understand quite well, say the stadium Easter egg. So you're doing the stadium Easter egg and you want to make a video guide for it. You could just go back to your Twitch streams and take footage of you doing the stadium Easter egg and be like, okay, I'm just going to grab all the footage of this and put it straight into a video, talk over the top of it and upload it. That would be a kind of simple way of doing it. Still takes some time because you've got to get all the bits, you've got to make sure you just get the successful attempts. You want to cut out a load of the rubbish in the middle of it, but you could do it. But if you were going to make a good guide for the stadium Easter egg, surely you'd want to show all of the 3 different cards. So you've got a card for the parking garage, a card for the concourse, and a card for the executive level. Now, if you're trying to find those cards, that means you've got to see it on your screen yourself before somebody else picks it up. So now you've got to go into lots and lots and lots of games until you find all 3 of those cards. You could be going in for like 20 games before you find one of them. So that's really, really challenging. You're now spending a huge amount of time, hours, just to get a little bit of footage of each card to show what they look like on screen. Then you want to show what each office is and where each office is. So you need to make sure that you've got footage of you going to each office, probably opening it. So you need to do it in the games where you got those cards. Then you also need to show the map. Sometimes when you're recording this, someone will be shooting at you, or the gas will come in if you were doing it in Warzone, or you're doing it in Plunder. Then it'll come up with the big overtime thing over the top of it and ruin that bit of footage. So that takes a lot of time. Then you want to be obviously solving the code, and you want to explain how to solve the code. So you're probably going to have to make graphics to show how the code solving works. You're going to want to show you actually entering the code, so doing it yourself. You're probably going to want to show people that you can complete it with one piece of the puzzle, one computer room, or 2, or 3. So you've got lots and lots of different things to do. So if you were going to make a really good, really helpful thing for it, you've now got to get all of these different bits of footage. You could even go so far as to work out where all of the spawns are for the cards, where all the possible spawns are. You could be doing that for days, because I don't think we still know where all of the spawns are. You know, we've seen lots of them, and on my Discord we've got a map of them, but actually getting into a game and finding footage of a card spawning in that exact location is super difficult to do. So making a guide like that, you've got loads and loads of footage to get, and it could take hours and hours and hours. And then by the time you post the guide up, it's entirely possible someone else would have posted it already. And then you'll get less views because their one was doing better than yours, and the algorithm favors theirs for some reason. So there's a kind of temptation for people to go into these things and look at other people's guides and think, I'll just use their footage. Like, why not? It's basically the same footage. You're going to the same place. You're doing the same things. And you can often tell when someone's done that because they crop the image so you can't see the names in the bottom left corner, like where the health bar is. And if you see a video, if you see a guide video where they've done that, normally that's because they've been recording stuff from someone else's stream, someone else's footage, where they've just saved themselves loads of time by doing that and uploading it. Now, I actually sometimes give people permission to do that, especially if someone's making a video in another language. I often say, like, well, they're not in competition with me, so that's fine. But it's nice when they actually ask. I do often see guides come up for things, especially when an Easter egg is new out, where people have made guides and it's just my footage, but with my name cropped out of the bottom. And I think that's pretty unethical, because that's just essentially stealing someone else's hard work to try and get some views and things like that yourself. You can see why people do it, because it saves a huge amount of time and effort, but then you're sort of trying to get the reward from someone else's hard work, which I don't think is okay. I don't think that's a good decision to make. The other thing that people do sometimes that's maybe a little bit unethical is when people decide that actually the accuracy and truth doesn't matter that much. When I started making content for Call of Duty, I started following loads and loads of people on YouTube and Twitch, like loads of content creators, loads of streamers, just to kind of see what other things people were doing and see if there were gaps where I could sort of do something else. And one thing that I saw loads of, especially with those people who have kind of big audiences but not massive audiences, so the people who are like between 10 and 100,000 subscribers, they often had videos that were talking about how a gun was OP. And if you looked through their list of videos, there would be one for nearly every gun. And nearly every gun, it would just be them sort of like, they'd stitch together a load of like highlight clips of them getting kills with it, them getting kill streaks of that gun. And then they'd talk about how everyone should do it and this is the best thing for it and it's broken right now, so everyone should go into it. And they're releasing these every 2 or 3 days with a different gun and still getting hundreds of thousands of views sometimes, or tens of thousands at least. And it doesn't matter that the information is wrong. You know, sometimes they're saying things that are just flat out wrong in those videos, because people will trust them. Like, people won't double check their information against something else. The way guns work in Call of Duty is kind of difficult enough to test for yourself that most people will just trust someone else's opinion. You know, if someone says a gun's OP, they'd assume that, yep, that gun must be really strong. They'll tell their friends about it, they'll watch the video and they'll use it. And then they'll sort of forget that a few days later, that content creator will say a different gun is OP and that this is the gun that everyone should be using. And you see this in all types of content. You see this in loads of different things. You know, I've seen loads of guides for how to do the Easter eggs where they miss out important steps or they get things wrong because all they really care about is getting the video out, and they're putting out videos about things they don't really understand. The reason people still go to E. coli Espresso and go to Exclusive Ace and people like that is because they know what they're talking about. Like, they definitely do the testing. They show you the testing. And then that means you can trust them. Unfortunately, for, you know, every one of them, there's thousands of other content creators who can just put anything that looks like a guide or it looks like it's information, but actually it's just a load of nonsense. It's just stuff that's been made up. And I really don't like that either. That obviously will damage your reputation. I think that's why a lot of these people get stuck under 100,000 subscribers. They never break past that because eventually people get wise to it and stop following them. People realize that it's just a load of rubbish. The ones who actually know what they're talking about tend to be the ones who keep on going and keep on growing. So the next thing we're going to talk about, the next motivation which brings with it a load of issues, is influence and fame. The idea that you as a content creator want to get more people watching your videos. Now, the obvious decision that comes with this, and always comes with this, and I was talking about it on Twitter fairly recently, is clickbait. That if you want lots of people to watch your videos, the most obvious sort of underhanded way to do it is to have the titles and thumbnails be quite misleading. And this is something we've seen a lot of recently, where lots and lots of different types of content creators have done things where they took those nuke launch codes that their content creators sent, and have taken footage of those and said, nuke live event confirmed for Warzone. And it's like, there was nothing in that confirmed there was a nuke launch live event, but because enough people have talked about it, people are searching for it. So if you put that in your video, and you maybe put a picture of, superimpose a nuclear explosion behind the stadium or something like that, then loads of people are going to click on it because they think you've got information about some big event that's going to be happening. And, to me, that's just lying. To me, that's like super frustrating when I'm on YouTube and I click on a video that looks really interesting and then I find out there's nothing there. And that happens all the time. A number of times I've clicked on videos this summer where someone said that, they know something for sure about what's going to happen in Warzone or what's going to happen with Black Ops Cold War. And then you click on it and and then in the video, by the end of it, they end up saying, so we don't really know what's happening. And it's like, well, why did you say you did know? And the words, there's certain buzzwords that link to that. So when people say things like confirmed, or people write 100%, or like coming soon, or something like that, all of those things tend to be clickbait. Like, they tend to be things where people don't really know, but they're taking a bit of a guess, or they're just going to sort of like keep on talking for a long while without ever actually getting to the point and end the video and hope that you forgot why you clicked on it in the first place. That happens quite a bit. I've kind of started avoiding a lot of those now, just by not wanting to talk about leaks or listen to leaks or see spoilers or things like that. And I think a lot of that is in that kind of leaking community, in that sort of community that's trying to be the first to get information. There's a huge amount of clickbait in there. So by detaching yourself from that, you kind of get away from a bunch of it. But it still does happen. It still happens a little bit, especially with the Easter eggs and things like that. People sometimes blow things out of proportion or say things are way more exciting than they really are, which I find very, very frustrating. Now, there's other things when people are trying to get influence and fame, there's other decisions that people have to make, especially smaller content creators. One of the big ones is viewer botting. And this is something you see a lot of. Sometimes it's not actually botting. Sometimes it's like asking, you get those websites where you sign up and you follow people and then they follow you in return. Things like that. Basically anything that fakes your numbers. And this is something that people think like it legitimizes them, that if they've got 1,000 followers on Twitch, they're going to be taken more seriously than if they had 100 followers. And then there's a chance that more people will stick around because they think they're, a serious streamer rather than some amateur streamer. In my experience, it doesn't really work. Like, when I've seen streamers who have, it says that they've got 1,000 viewers and then you go in and their chat is completely dead. That, if anything, just makes me think, oh, well, there's no way I'm going to watch this person again, because they're clearly just sort of cheating the figures. From what I've heard from PR people as well, it's very easy for them to see, they want to look at your engagement. And even if your followers number is very high or your viewer number is very high, they can see quite easily how high your engagement is. And if that's incredibly low compared to the other statistics, it implies that you're doing something to lie, basically. You're doing something to inflate those figures. So I would strongly suggest nobody ever does that. Like, there's no shortcuts to getting viewers and followers and subscribers and things like that. And any website that tells you that they can do it is just trying to sell you on, they can probably increase one of your metrics, but it's never going to fool anyone. They're selling you on the mistaken idea that having a higher number legitimizes you completely. I'm sure it helps. If you are clicking on streams, you're probably going to click on a stream that's got 1,000 viewers more likely than you are going to click on one that's got 10 viewers. But you're probably going to stick around in that one with 10 viewers a lot longer than one if there's a load of people talking in there, compared to the one with 1,000 viewers that's got nobody talking in it. So I wouldn't be sort of led astray by those things. Now, other things that get people influenced, and one of the things that I've definitely been guilty of in the past, is getting involved in trying to leak information or data mine information. And this is something that probably applies more to Call of Duty and a lot of other things, although I have heard of it happening in like Animal Crossing and Grand Theft Auto and things like that as well. When you're starting out as a Call of Duty content creator, it's incredibly hard to be seen. There's like thousands of other people who are trying to be seen at the same time as you. And they will be willing to say things or do things that maybe you aren't. They're maybe going to be more skilled than you, or they're going to be more charismatic than you, or they'll have better gear than you, whatever it is. You might think, okay, there's no way I can compete with those people. So one thing that's quite tempting is just to try and find out information before other people. And so that's what leads people to sort of like investigating leaks or data mining, all stuff like that. And like, make no mistake, there's no skill involved in that stuff. Like the data mining things, basically, it's super simple. It's something that like anyone can learn to do by Googling it. And all it does is give you a clue about things that are going to get released in the future or things that might get released in the future. And then you take a gamble on what you're going to publish and what you're going to say. And like I would say, out of all of the big sort of Twitter accounts that do this data mining and do leaks and stuff like that, they're probably all getting information from about the same 10 or so people. I think I've said this before. And there's a kind of weird community around that of people arguing with each other and sort of fighting with each other for who gets credit for what, who's got like the clout from like announcing something. And it's bizarre. Like at the time I did it because it got me some attention. Then as soon as we did the Cypher Easter egg, I realized actually all that we were doing was spoiling surprises for people. We were just spoiling marketing campaigns essentially. It was rubbish, and you weren't even getting that much attention from it. You get a few hundred people watching you because of it, and it's like all you're doing is spoiling the experience for them. So I completely stopped it. I completely abandoned it and decided that was a terrible way to get attention. So I gave up on it. But you can still see it if you go look at those accounts that are just like, they just care about leaks. They just care about rumors and data mines and stuff like that. You'll see the sort of toxic community that creates of people who all they care about is being superior to other people, about knowing more than other people, as if that's the thing that makes them, better than someone else. And it leads to this kind of infighting and people falling out and some people sharing information, then other people sort of grabbing it from them. And all of them are just dealing with content that isn't theirs. All of them are just dealing with stuff that's, at worst sort of copyright infringement, but at best it's just stuff that it's like someone else's secrets that you're sharing. So it's like a bizarre kind of thing where I don't think there's any future in it for any of those people. I don't think there's anywhere to go with that kind of content. And yeah, people do it, like I said, I understand that people do it to get attention. That's kind of, that's why I did it. I still think it's a mistake. I think it's a dead end, and I think it's something that's going to end up damaging your reputation in the long run, more than it is going to help you build up an audience, more than it's, going to build up a community. When I was doing the data mining things, I think by the time I stopped doing that, I had about 500 followers on Twitch and probably about 2,000 or 3,000 followers on Twitter and YouTube. And now I'm on like way more than double that on Twitch and YouTube, on Twitter and YouTube. And on Twitch, I'm like around 10 times that now. And that's from doing Easter egg content and stuff that's kind of a little bit, and community stuff, which is kind of a little bit more wholesome, a little bit more honest maybe, and actually me making my own content with using these games rather than just trying to steal someone else's secrets. Now, there's another 2 ways that people gain influence and fame that I think is really unethical and I think is a bad decision. And these are things that I don't really understand why people do it, but it does happen. And the first one is causing drama. It's when people hang around in people's streams of people they don't like, especially the biggest streamers, so people like Noah or Dalek or Nick Merckx or Tim the Tatman or people like that. And they just look for them to be saying something, or they look for them to make a mistake, or they look for them to say something a little bit offensive or something like that. So then they can post about it on Twitter or make a YouTube video about it, hoping that lots of people, because of their interest in the more famous person, will click on that person's content to hear what the drama is about them. And this is sort of like obviously something that leads to an incredibly toxic sort of group or toxic community, and it means that your entire kind of community, your entire content stream is dependent on other people doing something wrong, on other people making a mistake, or other people not being a great person. And that's really bad, because then you're looking for the worst in people, you're looking for the worst things. So I personally don't really understand that. I kind of get why people read that content and watch that content, but I think it's really bad for everybody when that sort of thing starts happening. The other one is reposting and stealing content, which is kind of similar to in the last section I was talking about. But sometimes people go beyond just taking bits of footage and actually just look for content on one social media platform. So maybe they'll see something that's on YouTube and then they'll just repost it on TikTok or on Facebook or something like that. Or they'll just claim it for their own. They'll hang around on Discords and find images and guides and things like that, then just post it pretending that they did it because they want that attention. We see that a lot, and we've seen that a lot with over the summer with the Easter eggs, where there's been stuff that people in our community on our Discord have made, especially maps and images and things like that. And then someone's gone onto another Discord and said, "Hey, I made this, I hope it helps." And it's like, you definitely didn't make that. Like, we can see all the timestamps and stuff. And it happens a lot between social media platforms, like I said. You'll find on TikTok there's loads of footage of other people's stuff who just don't have a TikTok account, like I don't have a TikTok account. So it's something that, again, is kind of I don't see how anyone could defend that. It's clearly unethical. You're just stealing someone else's work for your own reward. But that definitely does happen, and that's one of the ways people try to build up an account. They try to do that so they're building off someone else's content, hoping eventually people will start paying attention to their own content, which I assume it probably does work sometimes, annoyingly, but it's clearly the wrong thing to do. Now, the last part of this video, I wanted to talk about probably the most kind of obvious grey area when it comes to content creation, the most obvious thing that people would worry about or see as unethical, and that is money. When you're making content, there's sort of 4 main ways you can make money. There are more ways, and if you're interested in how people make money in content creation, I'd strongly suggest you go look at Alpha Gaming, like Harris Heller's channel. He has some brilliant videos breaking down exactly how people at sort of different levels make money. But I'd say the main 4 ways are platform advertising, so like the adverts that just run on your YouTube videos or on your Twitch streams, donations, subs and memberships, and sponsorships. So platform advertising is kind of all above board. Like, obviously there's a temptation for people to make their videos over 8 minutes long on YouTube, because you get mid-roll adverts and you make more money from that video. There is a bit of a decision to be made in that. Like, if, say, your video is 7 minutes and 50 seconds, are you going to add a little bit onto it, maybe waffle a little bit, just to make it a little bit longer to get over there? It's probably a good business decision, but when people start noticing a lot of your videos are just over 8 minutes, they might think, okay, you're just dragging this out a bit. It doesn't bother me when people do that, when there's like a tiny little bit of padding, especially if it's at the end. I've done that on the end of my videos sometimes, where I do the outro and then just add 10 seconds of gameplay footage, because I figure it's not going to harm anyone. Like, people are going to be watching the main bit and then stop watching at the outro anyway. But if I put a little bit of funny footage or something at the end, I get more money from that video. The problem comes from when it's a video that should be 1 or 2 minutes long and you drag it out to 8 minutes. That's a much bigger problem. And you definitely see some things like that where some people make videos where they've essentially got one thing to say, but they've dragged it out to an 8-minute video in order to try and get that advertising revenue. But generally, I think platform advertising's fine. In Twitch, you don't really get much money from advertising unless you've got tens of thousands of viewers. Even then, when I had the Twitch raid, I put on some ads, people spamming like ad time, and you still don't really make much from it. But the platforms make money from it, and they sort of give some of that money back to you, so it's kind of an inevitability of it. On Twitch, you can choose to run ads in the middle of your stream, and that means that then new people to the channel won't get ads for a little while, and I think that's quite a good system. I use it sometimes, if I need to go to the bathroom or something like that, I'll run 60 seconds of ads, and then it means for the next 10 minutes, anyone new who comes to the channel doesn't get ads. So that's probably a good thing, and I don't think there's too much in the way of ethics with that. Beyond being a viewer and like, do you use ad blocker or something like that? If you do use ad blocker, I suppose you're not seeing some ads, but then it also means any of the content you're consuming, you're actively like stopping them from earning a little bit of money. You're not paying for the content anyway, so it seems a little bit harsh to be denying people from making any money from your views. But each their own. I'm sure some people do it and are fine with it. So the next one is donations. Donations are a little bit trickier. Donations are something that's become a big part of the kind of culture of streaming, especially more so than content creation. And I've always been a tiny bit uncomfortable with it. Like, obviously it's awesome when people donate money to me. If I'm streaming and someone randomly gives me a $5, or, Vaping Viking came along and gave me 200 quid, that's absolutely amazing. It's brilliant. I'm very, very grateful for it. It's nice because often the donations, you actually get more of a chunk of that than you do from like Twitch subscriptions or things like that. But there's always a sort of slightly strange element of what do you say about it? Like, do you make a big deal out of the people that donate to you? In which case you might make the people that can't afford to donate or don't want to donate feel kind of bad, like they're sort of second class. Do you put their name on a leaderboard or something on your screen? Do you talk about donations? Like, so when you're streaming, you've got that decision to make of, do you want to be the sort of person who is constantly talking about, reminding people where the donate link is, saying, that there's a donation link? Do you talk about what the money's going to go to and how honest are people with that? I've tried to always be honest. If people have been donating across this summer, that's going towards me getting a new graphics card. Like, I'm fine. I don't need help paying the rent or paying for food or anything like that. I do not want people who have less money than me sending me money because they think that I need it in some way. It's kind of something where you want to give people the choice, but you don't want to make people feel obliged in any way. And that's super tricky. Like, that's super difficult. My sort of solution to that was to do Patreon. I quite like Patreon system where you can actually set things as kind of rewards for donating. So if people donate to my Patreon, they get a podcast, which I update at least every couple of weeks, normally more often than that. The reason I did that was not because I didn't want everyone else to see my podcast. I could have just put them up on YouTube or put them up on a podcast service, but actually because I thought then at least people are buying something. People are buying a service. People can pay if they want to listen to my podcast, and there's a group of people that do, and that's awesome. And if they don't want to listen to the podcast, they don't need to pay, and that's awesome too. That's absolutely fine. And then if people want to pay more for the podcast, they can, or people can pay less for it. That's fine too. So I've tried to do it like that. The only time I've seen donations being used really sort of what I would say unethically is in two situations. One of them is when you see people guilting their viewers. There was quite a famous clip going around a while ago where a streamer was sort of berating her audience for not donating. She was saying something like, "Oh, I've been streaming 4 hours now and I've only had $100 in donations. Like, this isn't good enough. You guys need to try harder." And like, I have a problem with that. I think that's really bad for your community. I think that's a really weird way to talk to people. If people want to watch you and they're supporting you just by watching you, that should kind of be enough. The other way is bad is when you see people who are kind of guilt tripping their audience into doing it. So they're saying like, "Oh, I'm really hungry, but I'm a bit hard up this month," stuff like that. And it's like, I can get it if someone has something bad happen to them and they want to talk about it, and someone has like their house burned down or their car stolen or something, or they have medical bills and they want to be like, "Oh, I'm in trouble. I've lost a load of money because of this." Fair enough. If it's like a one-off, that's fine. But you see some people who are regularly trying to say about, "Oh, I wish I could buy this. I wish I could have this. Oh, I really could do with a new webcam. Really could do with this." And it's kind of every stream as if it's trying to say like, almost just begging really. And I think that's kind of, I don't know what the word for it is. I think that's kind of unethical. I think you shouldn't be trying to make people feel bad, especially when in general, I would say often streamers have more money than the people who are watching them, especially the bigger streamers. So it's slightly strange when you've got people who don't have very much money giving a lot of money to people who do have a lot of money. That's kind of a big problem in our society in general, so I don't know why you'd want to make that much worse. Now, the next one, the sort of subs and memberships, that again is quite transparent. I think there's a kind of difficulty when people act as if you have to pay to be part of their community. You see a lot of people in their chat, they have sub-only mode on, and that's fine if you've got 100,000 viewers and you need it to be able to read anything, because you need some way of filtering out people. So, okay, you have the people who's supporting you the most talking, but when you've got someone who's only got 100 viewers and they've got sub-only mode on, that kind of just seems a little bit greedy. I've talked before about when I had the Twitch raid on, when Ninja raided me on Twitch, I put subs only mode on there for a little bit thinking, okay, so more people will sub to me and it means I can actually read the chat. And I think that was a mistake. Like, that was something that would turn a lot of people off because it makes people think they have to pay to watch your content. Or to interact with you. And I never liked the idea of people paying for access to you. I got offered to be part of this thing a while ago where it was like this website set up, I can't remember the name of it now, where people could pay to have a chance to play games with you. And I felt that was really strange. Like, I was really uncomfortable with it. And I just said no to them because I was like, I kind of, when I have time to play with viewers, I do. And then I just let, whoever play. Sometimes I've prioritized people who are already subs, but I never sort of do the whole thing of saying, if you sub now, you'll be allowed to play with me. I think that's very strange, sort of selling access to yourself like that. I mean, maybe I'd feel differently if there were hundreds of thousands of people that wanted to play with me rather than like 20. But it's a very, very strange situation to be in where you're starting to sell interaction. I think that's very strange. The last thing, and probably the biggest kind of ethical decision that I'm facing right now, and something that I think lots and lots of people face when they just start sort of getting a bit bigger as content creators, is sponsorships. So sponsorships are when a company wants to pay you to present their product to your audience. And there's lots of different ways you can do this. It could just be having stuff in the background, like having a chair, having their logo somewhere, having their products about. It could be you talking about their products and sort of reviewing it or recommending it. It could be an actual sponsored segment. So, you have a bit of your video where you say this video is sponsored by such and such. There's lots of different ways of doing it. There's like game ones where they sponsor you to stream their game for a little while. Now, you'll see this quite a lot because this is one of the big ways people make money. It's one of the big ways to make steady money and to make a lot of money. Some of the big streamers can demand thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars for a sponsored segment that doesn't take very long. And that's a brilliant way to make money. And my approach to it has always been, if it's a company that I already like and I already would recommend to someone, then I'm sort of happy with it. If somebody wants to come, if like I use a load of Razer products or I use a load of Elgato stuff, if Razer or Elgato came to me and said, hey, we're going to pay you $1,000 a month to talk about the fact that you use our products and sort of, sometimes have links to our new products in your description, are you happy with that? I'd be like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Like, I am more than happy to present those products and, to be transparent about the fact it is a sponsorship, but I genuinely do like their products. It gets a bit more iffy when it's stuff that you maybe wouldn't like. I've sort of made a public stand against saying that I'm not going to be sponsored by energy drinks and things like that. I personally am quite against energy drinks. I think they're really bad. As someone that teaches young people, I see young people drinking energy drinks a lot, and I think it's probably quite damaging to their health. So I would never want to be sponsored by an energy drink company and then be seen to be like endorsing energy drinks or encouraging people to drink energy drinks. And that can be kind of difficult because obviously one of the big sponsors for video game streamers are, people like G Fuel and Red Bull and all people like that. And I just wouldn't feel comfortable with it. People have said to me on Twitter before, like, what if they paid you $1 million a year? Then would you do it? And it's like, I mean, maybe my principles do have a price. Like, there's a point where it seems like it'd be stupid not to. But at the moment, at least, I just don't think that makes sense. Like, I wouldn't want to be endorsing something that I didn't really believe in. And I've got a few examples of that. Over the last few weeks, I've had some companies get in touch with me. One was a gambling company who do things where you can gamble on sports, but also gamble on esports. And they wanted me to do a partnership thing with them. And I said no, just because I don't want to endorse gambling. Like, I'm just not someone who gambles. I don't think I would like to encourage people to gamble. I don't care what other people do. They can make their own decisions. But I definitely wouldn't want to be encouraging my community to gamble. I wouldn't want to be responsible for anything like that. So I just said no. And it's fine. The company were like, yep, thank you for your time. Goodbye. That's fine. I've also had a couple of companies offer to send me free products. And I've looked at them because I've been kind of, oh, cool, might be able to get some freebies. But then when I actually look at the companies, they're companies that sell kind of modded controllers and sort of things that look like, so you can use mouse and keyboard on console and things like that. And I've been I've had to say no to them as well, because it's like, I don't really agree with what you do. I don't really agree with what you're selling. And one of them started their email something like, Dear Chris, and it's like, my name isn't even Chris. I don't know where you got that from. But yeah, there's like things like that where, okay, I might get some free stuff out of it. I might get a bit of money out of it, just, doing a review on YouTube or talking about it on stream. But then it's harming my reputation. Then it's harming my sort of brand. And I think that's a really negative thing. So if you do ever see sponsorship stuff like that on this channel, I haven't done any yet. If you do see stuff like that, hopefully you can trust that it's something that I actually believe in, I actually agree with. And I think there's always going to be a temptation, especially for the people that I talked about at the beginning of the video, who just get into streaming and content creation because they want to make money. There's always going to be that temptation for them to sell out as quickly as they can. And if I am going to give any advice in this video, it's don't sell yourself short. Like, wait until something comes along that you actually believe in and you can be proud of. Especially when it's just something like they're going to send you something free. Like, if they're going to send you a $20 microphone or webcam or something, that's not worth selling out your brand for, or selling out your identity for, your reputation for. You know, make money by all means through content creation, but try to make money in a way that you feel comfortable with, and try to make money in a way where you think you're not harming anyone by doing that, which is, you know, quite a big ethical consideration to make. At what point are you willing to get paid to go do something that's against your principles? For me, I feel like it would be a lot of money before I was willing to endorse something that I didn't really believe in. So if you ever see a video where, you know, I'm suddenly driving around in a new Ferrari, or I'm suddenly in a mansion, and then I'm telling you to drink an energy drink, I've probably sold out, to be honest. So if you've enjoyed this video, I know it's a bit of a sort of long, rambly one. Sometimes I quite like doing videos like this. You know, I personally find them, you know, quite self-indulgent. I quite like them. But if you do like it, please do like and subscribe. If you don't like them, feel free to let me know in the comments. Press the dislike button, whatever you want to do. But yeah, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.